If you were stranded in the snow and your best friend suddenly said, "I need to go talk to an angel," would you think he was joking? Or would you realize something was deeply wrong? Because in tonight's first story, a man leaves his wife, drives into the frozen wilderness, and claims he's being called by something that isn't human. What his friend finds waiting for him in the snow destroys a friendship forever. These are three true winter camping horror stories, caught in real life. And the first one begins with a call that should have never been answered. A little over 2 years ago, my phone rang late in the afternoon. The caller ID showed Megan, the wife of my old friend Ryan. I hadn't talked to either of them in months, so I figured it was going to be a chill call, late holiday wishes, or maybe an invite to grab a drink. But the second I said hello, I knew something was off. Her voice was shaky, like she'd been crying and trying to stop. "I don't know what to do," she said. "Ryan, he left." I sat up on the couch. "Left how?" "He packed a bag. Camping stuff. Food. Extra clothes. And he said something I can't get out of my head." "What did he say?" There was a pause. Then she whispered, "He said he needed to go talk to an angel." I almost laughed, not because it was funny, but because it made zero sense. Ryan wasn't religious. Dude barely believed in horoscopes. He was more of a beer, barbecue, and dumb jokes kind of guy. But Megan wasn't joking. "He wouldn't tell me where he was going," she said. "Just kept saying I wouldn't understand, that I wouldn't believe him. And then he just pushed past me and drove off." I knew Ryan had been struggling. A week before Christmas, his mom passed away suddenly. No warning, no slow goodbye, just gone. He was wrecked. Stopped answering texts. Stopped going out. I figured he just needed space. But talking to an angel in the middle of winter? That didn't sound like space. That sounded like trouble. Megan asked a question I didn't want to answer. "Do you think he's losing it?" I thought about something I hadn't remembered in years. When we were in our early 20s, me, Ryan, and a couple buddies took a winter camping trip to some random lake up north. We were young, dumb, and wanted snow like it was some kind of trophy. It was freezing, miserable, and kinda awesome in that stupid way. That night, Ryan wandered off alone for a while. When he came back, he told us he saw an angel. We laughed it off back then. Drunk talk. Cold brain. End of story. Except Ryan never forgot it. So when Megan called me, that memory hit like a punch to the chest. "I think I know where he went," I told her. "Where?" "That lake. The one we camped at years ago." She started crying. "Can you go get him?" I hesitated. Not because I didn't want to, but because winter camping can kill you if you mess up. And Ryan wasn't thinking straight. "I'll go," I said. "I'll bring him home." She wanted to call the cops. I talked her out of it. Not because cops are bad, but because I didn't want Ryan locked in a cell or shoved into some psych ward if all he really needed was help and a warm bed. So the next morning, I took off. The farther north I drove, the worse the weather got. Gray sky. Snow drifting sideways. Trees looking like they'd been dead for decades. By the time I pulled off onto a dirt road, my phone had no signal and my car thermometer read 28 degrees. It felt like the world had shut down out there. I didn't wander around yelling his name. I just walked straight toward the spot where we used to camp. My memory dragged me there like it had been waiting for this moment. And there it was. A green tent half buried in snow. A dead fire pit. Gear tossed around like he dropped it in a hurry. "Ryan!" I yelled. No answer. I opened the tent flap. Empty. But his stuff was there. Clothes. Food. A flashlight. And sitting on top of a rolled sleeping bag, a Bible. That scared me more than if I found blood. I searched the woods for almost an hour, yelling his name until my throat hurt. No tracks I could follow. Snow covered everything. The trees swallowed sound. So I went back to camp and started a fire. Not for comfort, for survival. By the time the sky started going dark, I heard footsteps. Slow. Crunching. Human. I stood up, heart pounding. Ryan stepped out of the trees like a ghost. His beard was frosted with ice. His jacket looked stiff. His eyes were weird. Not wild. Not angry. Just locked onto something I couldn't see. "You shouldn't be here," he said. "Megan's worried about you," I said. "I came to get you." He shook his head. "I'm not leaving." "Man, it's freezing. You can't stay out here." "I have to," he said. "I need to talk to her." "To who?" "The angel. She can talk to my mom." That hit me hard. I didn't argue. I just nodded and sat by the fire with him. We talked for hours. About his mom. About the old camping trip. About that night he wandered off. He sounded normal until he talked about the angel. Then his voice got soft. Serious. Like it was real to him. "I saw her back then," he said. "Bright. Standing by the lake. I thought I was drunk. But I wasn't." I swallowed. There was something I'd never told him. Back then, I had slipped a tiny bit of LSD into his drink as a joke. Not enough to wreck him. Just enough to mess with his senses. I planned to tell him the next day. But he wandered off. We almost lost him. And I never confessed. That lie lived in my head for 20 years. And now it was killing him. I stared into the fire and said, "What if what you saw wasn't real?" He laughed. "You don't believe me." "I'm saying, what if I caused it?" He frowned. "What do you mean?" My chest felt like it was caving in. "I put something in your drink that night. Acid. A tiny bit. I was being stupid." His smile vanished. "You're lying." "I'm not. You're just trying to get me to leave." "I swear on everything, man." His breathing changed. Heavy. Fast. I started explaining. The light. The cold. His imagination. How a bird or reflection could turn into something else. That's when he hit me. No warning. No yelling. Just fists. I went down hard. Snow in my mouth. Pain in my ribs. He kicked me. Then grabbed my throat. My vision blurred. My hands clawed at his wrists. Nothing worked. I thought, this is it. This is how I die. Then he stopped. He rolled off me and backed away, shaking. "Get out," he said. "Now." I didn't argue. I walked back to my car, throat burning, chest aching, and drove straight home. I called Megan from a gas station and told her everything. She hung up. I haven't heard from either of them since. But sometimes I wonder, maybe Ryan really did meet an angel out there. Not in the snow, but in the moment he chose not to kill me. But that wasn't the only time winter camping ruined someone's life. In part 2, a depressed man joins what looks like a harmless support group and ends up in a frozen retreat where self-improvement means something far darker, and what they offer him for free can never be taken back.
My name's Alyssa, and I'm from Washington State. For most of my adult life, my best friend was a guy named Derek. Derek had always been kind of sensitive, but after a brutal couple of years, something inside him just broke. First, he lost his job. Then he got jumped and robbed walking home one night. A few months later, he got sick with some mystery virus that kept him in bed for weeks. And right in the middle of all that, his fiancée left him. One hit after another. Boom, boom, boom. He moved back in with his parents near the coast and basically vanished. Wouldn't answer calls. Wouldn't leave the house. Doctors tried meds. Therapists tried talking. Nothing stuck. He just stayed in his room, scrolling online like the rest of the world didn't exist. So when he randomly messaged me one day asking if I wanted sushi, I almost dropped my phone. When I met him, he looked better. Still skinny. Still pale. But his eyes had life in them again. What changed? I asked him straight up. He said he found a group. Not therapy. Not church. Just a weekly meetup at a coffee shop where people talked about life, shared poems, and tried to feel human again. He called it Mother's Love. Yeah, I know. Weird name. But he swore it wasn't culty. Said it helped him feel connected again. Said it gave him purpose. And honestly, I was just glad he wasn't rotting in his childhood bedroom anymore. Months went by before he even invited me. When he finally did, it wasn't for a coffee meetup. It was for a winter retreat. He told me it was going to be glamping, not real camping. Heated tents, real beds, vegan food, and an open bar on Saturday night. Free weekend. Free booze. Fancy tents. I should have run right there. But I didn't. We arrived Friday afternoon at this bougie campground that looked like a Pinterest board. Little wooden cabins dressed up as tents. Showers. Bar. Big meeting hall. About 30 people total. Everyone was smiling too hard. Like customer service smiling. The leader was an older woman named Mara. She welcomed everyone and started talking about what the weekend would be about. Some of it was harmless, nature, mindfulness, environmental stuff. Then she started dropping phrases like overpopulation and human suffering and ending the cycle. That's when I side-eyed Derek. Later, I asked him what that was about. He said some of them believed having kids was wrong because the world was broken and painful. That not being born was better than being born into misery. I told him that sounded wild. He shrugged. I don't really focus on that part. That night was fine. Dinner was good. Drinks were flowing. People were chill. Saturday was weirder. There were talks about capitalism, talks about feminism, talks about responsibility to the planet. And then Mara made an announcement. She said that the next morning, all male attendees would be receiving a free gift from Mother Nature. Not women, just men. Some women looked confused. Some women looked like they already knew. Back at the tent, I asked Derek what that meant. He said, real casual. It's a vasectomy. I thought he was joking. He wasn't. They bring in a medical guy, he said. Local anesthetic. Super fast. Barely invasive. My brain short-circuited. You're telling me they do surgery in the woods? Yeah. It's part of respecting Mother's love. Then he said something that scared me more than the surgery part. I'm getting it. I lost it. What if you want kids someday? He looked at me like I was stupid. Why would I want to make someone else suffer like I did? I told him that was depression talking. That life changes. That this was permanent. He told me he finally felt in control of something. We argued. Hard. Drank more. Argued again. At one point he said, who would even want to have kids with me? And without thinking, I said, plenty of people might. You don't know the future. That hit him. We hugged. We both cried. He thanked me for believing in him. I thought I'd talked him out of it. We went to sleep in separate little rooms inside the tent. When I woke up, he was gone. I stumbled outside, hungover as hell, asking people where Derek was. Nobody answered me. They just stared. like I was contagious. Finally, one of the organizers pulled me aside and said Derek already had the procedure. He was resting in another tent. They didn't want me upsetting him. I snapped. I called them manipulative, predatory. I said they used a broken guy to push their beliefs. That's when everything flipped. Men started yelling at me. Women glared. Someone shoved me. Someone called me a breeder. They told me to leave. I asked how Derek was getting home. They said, "We'll find him a better friend." I got to my car shaking, crying, feeling like I'd failed him. I texted him, called him. Nothing. We haven't spoken since. I don't care anymore whether he got the surgery or not. I care that a group took advantage of someone who was already hurting and convinced him that ending his bloodline was a spiritual act. Sometimes I wonder if he's okay. Sometimes I wonder if he even remembers who he was before they found him. But the last winter camping story is the most terrifying of all. Two friends go into the frozen wilderness for a survival trip, only to discover that one of them has crossed a line that can't be uncrossed. And when the wrong man comes looking for revenge, the forest becomes a battlefield.
My name's Alex, and I'm from northern Sweden. The scariest thing that ever happened to me didn't involve ghosts, demons, or anything supernatural. It involved a bad friend and a man with a shotgun. I joined the army when I was 18. Loved it. The cold, the discipline, the field life, I was built for it. But when I was 23, I got diagnosed with a rare medical condition and got discharged. Just like that, my whole identity got ripped away. I tried to move on, but I missed being outside, missed testing myself. So I pitched an idea to some old friends. Winter camping. Everyone said I was nuts, except Victor. Victor was a problem. Dude called himself Wolf like it was cool. He drank too much, fought too much, and always blamed the world for his mess. If we hadn't grown up together, I wouldn't have kept him around. But he loved survival stuff. So when he said yes, I figured, all right, maybe this won't be terrible. We went out in late February. Deep snow. No cell signal. Just trees and silence. The good thing about winter camping, bears usually hibernate. Unfortunately, we got unlucky. That first night, we woke up to heavy breathing outside the tent. Sniffing, crunching snow. A huge brown bear was digging through our bait. We jumped out screaming, waving arms, acting like idiots. It backed off, then fake charged. I stumbled backward and twisted my ankle hard. Pain shot up my leg like lightning. We finally scared it off with bear spray, but my ankle was wrecked and our food was almost gone. By morning, I could barely stand. Victor said he'd go find a store or a road and bring back food and meds. He left me alone with the tent and the bear spray. 2.5 hours later, he came back with a backpack stuffed full. Bread, bacon, vodka, cigarettes, chocolate, jerky, and a weird pile of random medicine. He wasn't happy, though. He looked pissed. I asked where he got it. "A shop," he said. I asked why he bought allergy meds when I needed painkillers. He snapped. "I just grabbed whatever." That's when I asked the question I already knew the answer to. "Did you steal this?" His face gave him away. He finally admitted it. Said he didn't have enough money. The woman at the shop refused to sell him vodka. So he attacked her, beat her until she stopped moving, then ran. I felt sick. I yelled at him. He yelled back. He said he did it for us. That was when I realized I was stuck with a criminal in the woods, and he planned to get drunk and drive my car. I didn't have a choice. My ankle was shot. No phone, no signal. So I waited. Then I saw a small plane circling above us. I waved like crazy. It flew off. 10 minutes later, Victor stood up, swaying. Time to go. I looked up and saw a man walking toward us through the trees. He had a shotgun. Victor saw my face and turned around. "Run!" he screamed. The man raised the gun. Boom! I dropped to the ground by instinct, screaming as my ankle lit up in pain. I tried to crawl, but it was useless. The man approached. I knew exactly who he was. The husband of the woman Victor attacked. I rolled onto my back and begged him not to shoot me. I didn't do it. It was him. He chambered another round and fired at Victor running through the trees. Missed. Then he pointed the gun at my face. I thought I was dead. I started praying. Out loud. After a long second, he lowered the gun. He grabbed my arm and hauled me up. "My wife is alive," he said. "Barely. You're coming with me." He drove me to his store, where paramedics and police were waiting. I told them everything. Victor went to prison. I went home alive, and I never went winter camping again. 3 winter trips. 3 different reasons people went into the cold. And 3 ways it nearly cost them everything. So the next time you think about camping in the snow, remember this: the cold doesn't care if you're grieving. It doesn't care if you're searching for meaning. And it definitely doesn't care if you're with the wrong friend. Because in winter, survival isn't about gear. It's about who you trust.